Welcome back. We are today talking about seller concessions, and this is yet another consumer guide that NAR has put out. And this is really this applies to both residential and commercial, but it really probably especially applies to residential, which makes sense. And since I am primarily a commercial agent, I have to confess, I am not one who can really answer a lot of questions about financing for residential properties. So we're going to read this, again, I'll be reading most of this just off the page to try to make sure that I cover all of the points. And we may have a few comments while we go. So let's jump in. Seller concessions. As a home seller, you have choices when deciding how to market your property, including whether you'd like to offer concessions to attract buyers or close a deal. Here's what you need to know as you consider whether this approach is right for you. What are seller concessions and why make them? A concession is when a seller pays for certain costs associated with purchasing a home for the buyer. Concessions could make your property more attractive to buyers or lead to a better or faster offer. Concessions also help make home ownership more accessible for buyers by reducing upfront expenses. So, buyers with limited cash reserves may be able to stretch their budget further. And so I will say, we're talking about homes and residential properties. So far, this is also true for commercial properties. So you can offer concessions and, there's really no real distinctions there. What are some examples of concessions I can offer? You have options. Concessions can include covering costs associated with the title search, loan origination, inspection, homeowners associations, real estate taxes, or home repairs and updates. They can also be used to cover fees for professionals like agents or appraisers. How do seller concessions work? Concessions can be advertised upfront or negotiated as part of your home purchase agreement. In the agreement, a concession is often written as a specific dollar amount. Seller concessions usually aren't binding until they are put into a contract like a purchase agreement. And I would say this is a matter of preference, and it's going to depend upon your agent and on, of course, the seller on what they would like to do. My experience is that this is almost always going to come up in negotiation. I don't know that you need to advertise it up front. But again, that's going to depend upon your agent, your particular area. It is possible that in your area, it could make a difference. And that would be something that I think you would rely upon the expertise of your particular agent. What is the difference between a concession and an offer of compensation? Concessions can cover a variety of costs or fees for a buyer associated with purchasing a home, whereas an offer of compensation is specifically when the seller or agent agrees to compensate a buyer's agent for bringing a buyer who successfully closes the transaction. Read more about offers and the compensation thing. So they have a link in this, and I will, again, as I have been doing, I'll have a link to this consumer guide for NAR. And if you go to that web page, it will have links to other things with additional resources that could be helpful. How do I tell buyers I'm offering concessions? Concessions can be advertised publicly, shared on an MLS, on an online platform that compiles home listings from different sources, or discussed during purchase negotiations. Keep in mind that not all MLSs allow concessions to be advertised, and some only allow you to indicate whether you are offering a concession with a simple yes or no. If you choose to put a concession on an MLS, it must be written as the total sum of all concessions offered and cannot be conditioned on the use of or payment to a buyer's agent. So I'm gonna disagree with that a little bit, and I don't think that. I think the concept they're doing is right. I think it's just the way that it's worded maybe isn't complete. Part of this lawsuit and Department of Justice settlement that NAR had in 2024 was specifically about there being buyer's compensation on the MLSs. And so the MLSs has said that buyer's agent compensation may not be on MLSs. Now, there are, in some states, that is still happening. In some MLSs that were not part of this lawsuit, they disagreed and they wanted to still have it. But that's going to be on a, exception by exception basis. You have to find out. But in general, most places will no longer allow that. Now, they may allow you to say, hey, we'll do concessions, but they may not say, we are offering X percent of buyer's agent compensation. That is not allowed. Is there a limit to the concessions that I can offer? Yes. The limit on the total value of concessions you can offer depends upon the terms set by the buyer's lender and state law. However, any payment you offer toward the buyer's broker fee is excluded from these limits set by the buyer's lender and must be made off of the MLS. So that goes a little bit further to kind of what I was saying there. This was something, again, that kind of came out of this settlement, is that initially some of the lenders were not too happy about the way that this was going. And so they ultimately said, hey, we're not going to let that mess up our loan process. It just can't be part of that loan process. So that's something to keep in mind. In terms of the limit on the total value of concessions, that's really a question that is about financing residential purposes. And so I'm not an expert on that. That's one of those things that you would probably do best talking with a residential agent or talking with your lender and asking them what restrictions there might be on that. And if there are any residential brokers who primarily do that, who are watching this, who would like to put a comment in the comments and explain how that might work, that would be fantastic. How do I know what option is best for me? When you work with an agent who is a realtor, you are working with a professional guided by ethical duties under the Realtor Code of Ethics, including the pledge to protect and promote the interest of their client. Your agent will work with you to weigh your options, answer questions, and develop a strategy you are confident in. You can read more about realtors' duty to put clients above their own here. And again, as I said, I'll have a link to this, and you can see the links that can give you some different resources that might be helpful. Again, just a side note, I've made this comment every time this has come up, but I don't think it's widely known that the term realtor is a trademark of the National Association of Realtors, and only members of NAR are entitled to use that. And members of NAR do set themselves out from all other real estate agents who are not members, in that we have a very strict code of ethics that we have to follow. And in the United States, most real estate professionals are realtors, but not all. And if you are not a member of NAR, then you may not be following their code of ethics, and you may not be following any code of ethics at all. So there is a difference there. And that's why they go to the trouble to make that point. Practices may vary based on state and local law. Consult your real estate professional and or an attorney for details about your state law where you are buying or selling a home. please visit facts.realtor for more information and resources. So that is the NAR Consumer Guide on Seller Concessions. So I think that, there's another one on broker compensation. And so I think that those are kind of the most important points. If you have other questions about this, I will, as I've said, put a link in the description to this consumer guide. Also, if you have other real estate questions, you might put them in the comments. I try to respond to all comments. I'll also put a link to my website. You can reach out to me there and leave questions there if you like. And if you found this helpful, if you could give it a like, or if you could share it with somebody else who might like to benefit from this information. And if you like following information on real estate and real estate topics, you might even consider subscribing. And so I am David McCoy. My company is Otimo Properties. I'm based out of Louisville, Kentucky. I am a licensed real estate broker in Kentucky and Indiana. I primarily do commercial, do a little bit of residential, and I do global real estate. And I think I've covered all the things that I'm required to do. If I think of something else, I'll put it in the comments. And that's it, my friends. Have a great day, and hope you're having a wonderful day. And maybe I'll see you at a future video. Take care. Thank you for watching.